there's some, although muted, celebration on the left about terrorist attacks finally hitting home in places where they've been happening in other countries all around the world for so long, and now it's justified that they're happening in places like Paris, and it's going to be one in the United States at some point, and I hope not. But did you notice this kind of celebratory attitude?
What, that it's not just happening in like quote unquote places nobody cares about,
right?
Or
Yeah,
whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, I mean, if white privilege becomes being able to go around and buy things and get a cup of coffee without being blown up, selling white privilege could get a lot easier.
Yeah, well, it can. And this progressed kind of right after the Paris attacks, with the French flag Facebook thing. I noticed there were a lot of people, at least on my Basic Bitch feed, that were saying, well, what about Lebanon? And what about, Iraq? And what about blah, 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 blah. Like we're supposed to care. Like we're supposed, it's like, the reason why we don't really care or recognize when terrorist attacks happen in these countries is because these people have chosen to live this way. They've chosen to allow these things to happen to them.
Yeah, it's not, I mean, yeah, they're trying to make it out like clearly racist that, and maybe some of these people like subconsciously are because, they're white. The threat is Western civilization. It's like, oh, this is not too far removed from like my lifestyle. But really the main thing is that like, yeah, I'm not that concerned about what happened because it's not fucking odd for it to happen where it happened.
Right. It's not odd for it to happen. There are things that you could do to prevent it from happening, but you don't do because you don't have the agency. You're stuck in your own vibrancy, and this overpowering kind of belief that when they say, "Oh, what about Lebanon and what about Iraq?" it's because they actually believe that these people are all equal to us, and that when something happens in Paris, it's just as it's just as horrible, and it's just as I guess, let me put it this way. The attacks in Lebanon and Iraq are just as preventable and just as avoidable because the people are all on the same kind of hierarchy. And, the only thing that's separating them is some money and some access to Western civilization. I mean, it's fucking retarded.
No, it's like, yeah, I'm not that concerned when like some shitty fate befalls a fucking crackhead on the street, but like, make the story about my neighbor who lives in my nice neighborhood with me and then seeing like something similar could happen in my house. All of a sudden people are very concerned.
Yeah. Well, like, when Philip Seymour Hoffman like fucking was found dead in his apartment in Manhattan from like shooting dope, like everybody was like, oh my God. But like, that happens like 100,000 times a day, unfortunately. And no one seems to give a fuck. But
yeah, I remember that. And people were making that case like, I'm glad that Philip Seymour Hoffman's death elevated this issue, but like, we need to care about all the junkies too.